Man set up a camera at his wife's grave, but what he saw in the recording shocked him. John stood by Emily's grave, feeling the weight of loss. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the cemetery. He remembered the day he met Emily. She had a bright smile and a kind heart. They shared many moments together, from quiet coffee mornings to long evening walks. Now, those memories felt distant, like echoes in a silent room. The funeral had been a blur. Friends and family gathered, offering condolences and sharing stories about Emily. John listened, nodding, but his mind was elsewhere. He kept looking at Emily's grave, trying to understand how she could be gone so suddenly. One day, they were planning their future, and the next, he was standing here, alone. As the days passed, John visited the grave often. He found some comfort in being close to her, even if it was just a place. But soon, he noticed odd things. The soil near the grave seemed disturbed, as if someone had been digging. The flowers he placed carefully were sometimes moved or rearranged. At first, he thought it was the wind or animals. Yet, the changes felt intentional, like someone was trying to send a message. John couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He spoke to his sister, Lisa, about it. They sat in his small kitchen, the afternoon light spilling through the window. "I can't get past it," John said, staring into his coffee cup. "It's like someone is messing with her grave." Lisa nodded, her eyes filled with concern. "Maybe it's just your mind playing tricks. Grief does strange things." "But the soil, the flowers, it doesn't feel right," John insisted. Lisa reached out, touching his hand. "What do you think it means?" John shrugged. "I don't know. I just want to understand." After their conversation, John decided to take action. He wasn't sure what he expected to find, but he needed answers. One evening, he set up a small camera near the grave. He did it quietly, looking around to make sure no one was watching. His heart raced as he adjusted the lens, aiming it toward the headstone. He hoped the camera would capture something. Anything that could explain the disturbances. Maybe it was nothing, just his imagination running wild. But if there was something or someone, he wanted to know. The first night, the footage showed nothing unusual. Just the gentle sway of trees and the occasional bird. John watched, feeling a mix of relief and frustration. He scrolled through the recordings, hoping for a clue. As the days passed, John became more obsessed. He checked the camera every morning, eager to see what it had captured. Each time he visited Emily's grave, he looked for new signs. He was on edge, his mind filled with questions. One morning, he noticed a fresh footprint near the grave. It was small and faint, but it was there. John's heart skipped a beat. He replayed the footage again and again, looking for anything he might have missed. Shadows seemed to dance across the screen, forming shapes he couldn't quite define. John's friend Mike noticed the change in him. They met for lunch, but John was distracted, his thoughts elsewhere. "You okay, John?" Mike asked, his brow furrowed. John nodded, though he didn't feel okay. "Just tired." Mike gave him a knowing look. "You're still going to the cemetery a lot, huh?" "Yeah," John admitted. "I can't let it go." Mike leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. "Maybe you should take a break. Give yourself some space." John sighed. "I wish I could. But something doesn't add up." Mike didn't push further, respecting John's need for space. But John felt the isolation growing. He was caught between the need for answers and the pull of his grief. One evening, as John sat in his living room, he thought about Emily. He remembered her laughter, the way she lit up a room. He missed her so much it hurt. But more than anything, he needed to understand what was happening. He returned to the cemetery that night, guided by the pale moonlight. The air was cool and the world was silent. John stood by the grave, feeling an invisible connection to Emily. He hoped she knew he was there, trying to find peace for both of them. The camera was still in place, blinking softly. John adjusted it slightly, ensuring it captured the entire scene. He lingered for a moment, lost in thought. As he walked away, he realized that this quest for answers was his way of holding on. He didn't want to let go, not yet. Emily had been his world, and without her, everything felt off balance. The mysteries around her grave added to his confusion. But even if he never found the answers, he knew he would keep trying. For Emily, for the love they shared, he would continue to seek the truth. John sat at his desk, staring at the computer screen. He had spent hours reviewing the footage from the camera he set up at Emily's grave. The recordings played in loops, showing nothing out of the ordinary. Just the usual sights, a few leaves blowing in the wind, the gentle sway of tree branches, and the occasional bird hopping across the ground. But John felt a nagging sense that he was missing something. He leaned in closer, eyes scanning every frame for a clue. He wanted to find proof that his suspicions were not just a result of his grief. He needed to know if someone was visiting Emily's grave. One night, while watching the footage, John saw something unusual. A shadow moved quickly across the screen. It was there for only a moment, but it caught his attention. He replayed that part over and over, trying to make sense of it. The shadow seemed to have a shape, almost like a person, but it was too faint to be sure. John felt a mix of excitement and fear. This was the first sign that something might be happening. He stayed up late, scrutinizing every recording, looking for more signs. His heart raced with each discovery, even if it was just a fleeting shadow or a rustle in the leaves. Then, one evening, something else appeared on the footage. As John watched, he saw a handprint form on Emily's headstone. It was faint and slowly took shape, then faded away. John sat back, shocked. This was more than he had expected. The handprint seemed so real, yet it disappeared as quickly as it came. John's mind raced with possibilities. Could it be a trick of the light? Or was someone actually there? He couldn't tell, but his curiosity and fear grew stronger. He needed to know more. He needed to understand what was happening at Emily's grave. The next morning, John went to the cemetery. The sun was just rising, casting a golden glow over the graves. He walked to Emily's resting place, feeling the cool morning air on his face. The ground was damp with dew, and the flowers he had placed were slightly wilted. John knelt by the grave, examining the headstone. He ran his fingers over the smooth surface, searching for any trace of the handprint he saw in the footage. But there was nothing. The stone was clean and untouched. John felt a wave of frustration. He knew what he saw, but there was no physical evidence. That afternoon, John met with his friend Mike again. They sat in a small cafe, the hum of conversation around them. John told Mike about the shadow and the handprint. Mike listened quietly, nodding as John spoke. "You think it could be someone playing a prank?" Mike asked, taking a sip of his coffee. John shook his head. "I don't know. It just feels too deliberate. Like someone is trying to tell me something." Mike considered this. "Maybe it's time to talk to someone who can help. Someone who knows about this stuff." John sighed. "Like who?" "I'm not sure," Mike admitted. "But there are people out there who deal with these things." John nodded, though he wasn't sure who he could turn to. He felt alone in his search for answers, caught between the world of the living and the mysteries of the dead. That night, John reviewed the footage again. He felt a strange connection to the shadows and movements on the screen. They were like whispers from a world he couldn't fully understand. But he was determined to try. The days passed and John's obsession grew. He spent less time at work and more time focused on the recordings. His family noticed the change in him, worried about his well-being. But John couldn't stop. He felt like he was getting closer to something, even if he didn't know what it was. One evening, as John watched the footage, he saw another shadow. This time, it lingered longer, moving slowly across the screen. John leaned forward, eyes wide, trying to make out a shape. The shadow seemed almost human, but it was too vague to be sure. John's heart pounded in his chest. He felt a mix of fear and anticipation. He was on the edge of discovery, yet still in the dark. Each shadow, each movement on the screen felt like a step closer to understanding. But as the nights wore on, John realized he was no closer to the truth. The shadows remained shadows, the handprint just a memory. Yet he couldn't stop searching. He needed to know what was happening at Emily's grave, even if it meant facing the unknown. John felt a deep connection to the mystery, like it was a part of Emily's story that he had to uncover. He didn't know what he would find, but he was determined to keep looking. For Emily, for himself, and for the love they once shared. John sat in Emily's old study, surrounded by her belongings. The room was filled with memories of her, books she loved, notes she had written, and the scent of her favorite perfume. He felt a mix of sadness and determination as he started his search. He needed to find something that could explain the strange happenings at her grave. He opened her desk drawers carefully, sifting through papers and notebooks. Emily had always been a private person, but John hoped she had left behind some clues. He found letters from friends, old bills, and a few photographs. They were pieces of her life, but nothing that hinted at the mystery he was trying to solve. After hours of searching, John came across a small, leather-bound journal. It was tucked away in the back of a drawer, hidden beneath a stack of papers. John's heart skipped a beat as he opened it, hoping it would hold some answers. The journal was filled with Emily's thoughts, written in her neat handwriting. John read slowly, taking in her words. She wrote about her daily life, her hopes, and her fears. But as he read further, he found entries that caught his attention. Emily wrote about feeling anxious, like something was always just out of reach. She mentioned visiting places John had never heard of and meeting people she didn't name. Her words hinted at a secret she was keeping, something she was involved in but never shared with him. John's mind raced as he continued reading. Emily spoke of a group she had been observing. She didn't give details, but her words suggested she was drawn to them, yet wary. She described meetings she attended and the strange feeling that lingered afterward. John felt a chill as he realized Emily had been living a life he knew nothing about. He wondered why she hadn't told him and what had driven her to keep these secrets. He felt a mix of anger and sadness, but also a deep need to understand. As he flipped through the journal, a series of receipts slipped out. They were for a remote house on the edge of town, a place John had never been. Emily had visited there several times and the dates matched the entries in her journal. John stared at the receipts, feeling a surge of determination. This house seemed to be a key piece of the puzzle. It was linked to the mysterious group Emily had mentioned. He decided he needed to go there to see for himself what she had been drawn to. The next day, John set out for the house. He felt a mix of excitement and fear as he drove through the winding roads that led out of town. The landscape changed from familiar streets to dense woods, the trees growing thicker as he got closer to his destination. When he arrived, John saw the house was old and worn down. It stood alone among the trees, with peeling paint and broken windows. The sight sent a shiver down his spine, but he pushed forward, determined to uncover the truth. He approached the house cautiously, feeling the weight of Emily's journal in his pocket. The door creaked open as he pushed it, revealing a dark and dusty interior. John stepped inside, his footsteps echoing in the empty space. The air was heavy and still, and John felt an eerie presence as he moved through the rooms. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, and melted candles sat in a circle on the floor. John's heart pounded as he realized this was the place Emily had described in her journal. In a corner of the room, John found a stack of papers. He sifted through them, finding cryptic notes and drawings of the same symbols that were on the walls. Among the papers, he discovered a letter addressed to Emily. It was filled with vague references to her search, but no clear answers. John sat down, trying to piece together what he had learned. Emily had been drawn to this place, to these people. But why? What had she been looking for? The journal hinted at her anxiety, her need for answers, but left so many questions unanswered. As John sat there, he felt a deep connection to Emily's journey. He realized she had been searching for something, just as he was now. He felt closer to her, yet more distant at the same time. The mystery of her life was becoming clearer, but the reasons behind it remained a shadow. Determined to continue his search, John decided to take the papers and the letter with him. He hoped they would provide more clues, more pieces to the puzzle. As he left the house, he felt a mix of hope and sadness. Emily's journey had become his own, and he knew he wouldn't stop until he understood what had driven her. John drove back home, the weight of the mystery heavy on his mind. He felt a sense of urgency, a need to find answers not just for himself, but for Emily. Whatever secrets she had kept, he was determined to uncover them, to bring light to the shadows that had haunted her. John sat in his car, parked outside the house he had visited before. The stack of papers and Emily's letter sat on the passenger seat beside him. He felt a mixture of fear and determination as he prepared to enter the house again. This time, he hoped to find more answers, to uncover the secrets Emily had kept. The house stood silent and still, surrounded by trees. John felt a chill as he approached, the air thick with anticipation. He pushed open the door, the old wood creaking loudly. Inside, the room looked just as he had left it, with strange symbols on the walls and melted candles on the floor. John moved carefully through the house, looking for anything he might have missed before. He felt a strange energy in the air, as if the house was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. He searched each room, checking for hidden doors or secret passages. In one room, John found a small table covered in dust. On it lay a few more papers, similar to the ones he had taken before. He picked them up, his heart racing. The papers were filled with more cryptic symbols and notes. They seemed to be part of some ritual or ceremony, but John couldn't make sense of them. As he examined the papers, he heard a noise behind him. It was a faint shuffle, like footsteps on the old wooden floor. John froze, his heart pounding. He turned slowly, scanning the room for any sign of movement. The light was dim, casting long shadows across the walls. John felt a presence, as if someone was watching him. He called out, his voice echoing in the empty house. There was no response, only silence. John's mind raced with possibilities. Was someone else here, searching for the same answers? Or was it just his imagination playing tricks on him in the eerie silence? He felt a mix of fear and curiosity, torn between wanting to flee and needing to know the truth. Gathering his courage, John moved toward the source of the noise. As he stepped into the hallway, he saw a shadow move near the doorway. It was quick, almost disappearing into the darkness. John's heart raced as he followed it, determined to find out who or what was there. He entered another room, his eyes scanning the shadows. The room was empty, but John felt the presence stronger now, as if it was all around him. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. Then, a figure stepped into the dim light. John's breath caught in his throat as he recognized the person. It was Michael, Emily's old friend from college. His face was pale and his eyes were filled with guilt. John felt a wave of confusion and anger. Michael had been at Emily's funeral offering condolences like everyone else. But now here he was, in the very place linked to the mystery surrounding Emily's death. "What are you doing here?" John asked, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside him. Michael looked down, avoiding John's gaze. "I could ask you the same thing," he replied quietly. John took a step closer, his mind racing with questions. "Were you the one at Emily's grave? The shadows, the handprint, was that you?" Michael nodded slowly, his expression filled with regret. "Yes, it was me. I didn't mean to scare you." John felt a mix of anger and relief. He had spent so much time searching for a supernatural explanation only to find it was Michael all along. But why? What was his connection to Emily's hidden world? Michael began to explain. He told John about his friendship with Emily, how they had been close in college but lost touch after she got married. Recently, Emily had reached out to him, sharing her fears and uncertainties. She was searching for something, Michael said, his voice filled with emotion. Something she never told me about. She came here, hoping to find answers. John listened, his anger slowly fading. Michael was not the enemy he had imagined. He was just another person caught in Emily's web of secrets. "I couldn't let go after she died," Michael continued. "I kept visiting her grave, hoping to feel close to her again." John felt a pang of sympathy. He understood the need to hold on to the memory of someone you loved. He had been doing the same thing, searching for answers in the shadows of Emily's life. The two men stood in the dim light, connected by their shared grief. John realized that the mystery he had been chasing was not a ghost or a hidden force. It was simply the pain of losing someone dear expressed in different ways. As they talked, John's anger faded, replaced by a sense of understanding. He and Michael were not so different, both searching for closure in the wake of Emily's death. John knew the journey was not over. There were still questions left unanswered, mysteries that might never be solved. But for the first time, he felt a sense of peace. He had found something real in the shadows, a connection to Emily and to Michael, and a deeper understanding of the complexities of love and loss. John and Michael stood in the old house, the air heavy with unspoken words. The tension slowly eased as they realized they were not enemies but two people touched by Emily's life. John looked at Michael, seeing the pain mirrored in his eyes. "Why did Emily reach out to you?" John asked, trying to piece together the puzzle of her last days. Michael shifted, his gaze distant. "She was scared, John. She didn't know who to trust. She felt something was missing, like there were secrets she hadn't uncovered." John listened, feeling a connection to Emily's struggles. He had felt lost too, trying to understand why she had kept things from him. The shadows in her life were now partly illuminated by Michael's words. "I hadn't seen Emily in years," Michael continued. "But when she contacted me, it was like no time had passed. She was the same, yet different. More worried, more determined." John nodded, understanding the change. Emily had always been curious, always searching for answers. But this time, her search had led her into a world he couldn't follow. Michael explained that Emily had confided in him about the group she was observing. She had been drawn to their ideas, intrigued by what they promised. But there was always a sense of danger, a feeling that something wasn't right. "She asked me to help," Michael said softly. "She wanted someone she could trust, someone outside her normal life." John felt a pang of sadness. Emily had been torn between the world she knew and the one she was exploring. He wished she had trusted him enough to share her fears, but he understood why she reached out to Michael. Sometimes it's easier to talk to someone who stands outside your regular circle. "Did she tell you what she was looking for?" John asked. Michael shook his head. "Not exactly. She said it was important, something she had to understand before she could move on." John tried to make sense of it. Emily had been searching for meaning, for answers that eluded her. It was a journey he now shared, though he had started from a different place. Michael looked at John, his expression earnest. "I never meant to cause trouble, John. I just wanted to help her, to be there when she needed someone." John nodded, appreciating Michael's honesty. He realized that Michael had loved Emily in his own way, just as he did. Their love was different, but it was real and filled with complexity. As they talked, John felt his anger dissolve. He saw Michael not as a rival but as a fellow mourner, someone who had also lost a piece of himself when Emily died. "Thank you for telling me," John said, his voice sincere. "I needed to know." Michael nodded, relief washing over his face. "Emily was special. I just hope she found what she was looking for before." He trailed off, the weight of loss heavy between them. John understood the unfinished sentence, the words left unsaid. Emily's journey had ended too soon, leaving behind questions that might never be answered. The two men shared stories about Emily, remembering her laughter and kindness. They spoke of the little things she did that made her unique, the way she could make anyone feel important with just a smile. John felt a sense of peace in the shared memories. He realized that Emily had touched many lives and her spirit lived on in the stories they told. As the night wore on, John and Michael left the old house, stepping into the cool night air. The stars were bright, twinkling against the dark sky. John felt a sense of closure, a new understanding of the journey he had been on. He and Michael walked together, their footsteps quiet on the path. John knew they would go their separate ways, but this moment of shared grief would linger. They had both loved Emily, each in their own way, and that connection would always remain. John looked up at the sky, feeling a gentle acceptance wash over him. The mysteries of Emily's life were not fully solved, but he had found a new perspective. He understood that some questions might never have clear answers, but that was part of the journey. As they reached their cars, John turned to Michael. "Take care, Michael. And thank you." Michael nodded, a small smile on his face. "You too, John. Let's remember her well." With that, they parted ways, each carrying a piece of Emily's memory with them. John drove home, feeling the weight of his search lift. He had found what he needed, not in answers but in understanding and acceptance. John knew the road ahead would still have moments of sorrow and longing. But he also knew he could carry Emily's spirit forward, honoring her with the life he continued to live. In the end, he realized that love and loss were intertwined, shaping the paths we walk and the stories we tell. John returned home, the conversation with Michael still fresh in his mind. He sat in the quiet of his living room, reflecting on all that he had learned. Emily's secrets, the group she had observed, and the connection she had with Michael were now pieces of a larger picture. John felt a mix of emotions, relief, sadness, and a sense of closure. Over the next few days, John thought deeply about his relationship with Emily. He remembered their time together, the love they shared, and the dreams they had for the future. He realized that their love had been strong, but Emily had been searching for something beyond what they had. It was a journey she felt she needed to take alone or with someone she trusted who was not part of their daily life. John understood this now. He knew that love could be complex, filled with unspoken truths and hidden motivations. Emily had reached out to Michael for reasons that were clearer to John now. She had needed someone who could look at her situation from a different perspective without the weight of their shared history. John decided to meet with Michael again. He wanted to talk more, to explore their shared experiences and the feelings they both held for Emily. Michael agreed, and they met at a small cafe, the same one where John had first shared his suspicions with Mike. As they sat together, John felt a sense of camaraderie with Michael. They were both trying to find their way through grief, each in their own way. John spoke about his feelings for Emily, how deeply he had loved her, and how her sudden death had left a hole in his life. Michael listened, nodding in understanding. "I loved her too, John," he said quietly. "Not in the same way you did, but she was important to me. She had this way of making you feel like you mattered." John appreciated Michael's honesty. He realized that they both had valid yet different connections with Emily. It was a testament to the person she was that she could inspire such deep feelings in different people. "She never stopped caring about you," Michael continued. "Even when she was searching for answers, she always spoke of you with love." Hearing this brought comfort to John. He felt reassured that his relationship with Emily had been true, even if she had hidden parts of her life from him. He understood that her search was not a reflection on their love, but on her own journey for understanding. The two men talked about the complexities of love and loss, how grief can twist and turn in unexpected ways. They shared stories of Emily, laughing at her quirks and remembering her kindness. It was a healing conversation, one that helped John see Emily's life from a broader perspective. "Why do you think she kept this from me?" John asked, seeking Michael's insight. Michael thought for a moment. "I think she wanted to protect you, John. She didn't want to burden you with her fears until she knew more." John nodded, accepting this explanation. He realized that Emily's actions were born out of love, even if they had led to misunderstandings. She had been trying to shield him from her uncertainties, hoping to resolve them on her own or with Michael's help. As they finished their conversation, John felt a sense of peace. He and Michael were no longer strangers bound by tragedy, but friends connected by their love for the same person. They had both been touched by Emily, and in sharing their experiences, they had found a way to honor her memory. John left the cafe with a lighter heart. He understood now that grief and love were intertwined, forming a complex tapestry that shaped his life. He realized that while Emily's physical presence was gone, her impact would remain with him forever. Over the next few weeks, John found himself thinking less about the mysteries that had once consumed him. He focused on the happy memories, the laughter, and the love he and Emily had shared. He visited her grave less often, but when he did, it was with a sense of calm rather than a desperate need for answers. John also stayed in touch with Michael. They met occasionally to talk, sharing stories and keeping Emily's memory alive. Their friendship was a testament to the different ways people connect, brought together by a common bond. John knew he would always miss Emily. The void she left could never be filled, but he had learned to live with it, to accept it as part of his new reality. He was grateful for the time they had shared and for the lessons he had learned along the way. In the end, John found that the journey through grief had given him a deeper understanding of himself and those he loved. He realized that life was full of uncertainties, but it was also filled with moments of unexpected connection and clarity. And so, John moved forward, carrying Emily's spirit with him, embracing the unknown with a heart open to whatever lay ahead. John woke up to the soft light of dawn filtering through the curtains. He lay in bed for a moment, feeling the quiet peace that had settled over him. The journey of the past few weeks had been difficult, filled with questions and emotions. But now he felt a sense of clarity, a calm acceptance of the changes in his life. He got up and prepared a simple breakfast, the routine comforting in its normalcy. As he ate, John thought about Emily and the path he had walked since her death. He had come a long way from confusion and pain to understanding and peace. Later that morning, John decided to visit Emily's grave. It had become a place of solace for him, a spot where he could feel close to her. He wanted to say a final goodbye, not to leave her behind, but to embrace the future with her memory in his heart. The cemetery was quiet, the early morning air crisp and cool. John walked slowly, taking in the serene beauty of the surroundings. As he reached Emily's grave, he paused, feeling a wave of emotion wash over him. John knelt by the headstone, tracing the engraved letters of her name with his fingers. He thought about all they had shared, the laughter and the love. He whispered a silent promise to keep her memory alive, to honor her by living fully and truthfully. John placed fresh flowers on the grave, arranging them with care. He knew Emily would have liked the simple elegance of the bouquet. It was a small gesture, but it felt right, a way to show his love and respect. Standing up, John took a deep breath, feeling a sense of closure. He knew he would always carry a part of Emily with him, in his heart and in the way he chose to live his life. Her influence had shaped him, guiding him through the darkest times to where he stood now. As he walked back to his car, John reflected on the lessons he had learned. Life was unpredictable, filled with twists and turns that could not always be understood. But within that uncertainty lay the potential for growth and connection. John realized that the journey through grief had brought him closer to himself and to those around him. He had learned to appreciate the present, to cherish the moments that made life meaningful. Emily's memory was a gentle reminder of the beauty and fragility of life. Returning home, John felt a quiet strength within him. He knew the future would have its challenges, but he was ready to face them. He had found a new perspective, one that embraced both the joys and sorrows of life. John continued to stay in touch with Michael. Their friendship had grown, forged in the shared experience of loving and losing Emily. They met regularly, sharing stories and supporting each other as they navigated their own paths. Through Michael, John learned more about the world Emily had explored. They talked about the ideas and questions that had intrigued her, and John found comfort in understanding her journey better. It was a way to keep her spirit alive, to honor her curiosity and passion for life. As the days turned into weeks, John found himself slowly moving forward. He returned to work, reconnecting with colleagues and finding joy in his daily routines. He spent time with family and friends, grateful for their support and love. John also took up new hobbies, inspired by Emily's adventurous spirit. He tried painting, something he had always wanted to do but never had the courage to start. The act of creating brought him peace and a sense of connection to the world around him. In moments of quiet reflection, John would think of Emily, feeling her presence in the gentle rustle of leaves or the warmth of the sun on his face. He knew she would always be a part of him, guiding him as he continued to grow and change. John understood now that life was about embracing uncertainties, finding meaning in the journey, and cherishing the connections that made it worthwhile. Emily had taught him these lessons, and he carried them with him as he moved forward. One evening, John sat on his porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for the love he had shared with Emily and for the strength he had found within himself. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, John knew he was at peace. He had embraced the uncertainties of life, finding comfort in the memories and the love that would never fade. Emily's spirit had become a part of him, a guiding light as he continued his journey. John smiled, feeling a gentle breeze on his face. He whispered a quiet thank you to Emily, knowing she was with him always in every step he took and every breath he breathed. The future was uncertain, but John was ready to embrace it, carrying Emily's love and lessons in his heart.